What's up, everyone? This is the Next Take Podcast, episode 35 with Mikel and
Tanyka,
where we have conversations on different topics. So we have a very cool and
interesting
episode today, guys. And it comes with consequences, and people don't know what in terms of freedom of speech, there comes consequences with them as well. So, what is today's episode, Tanyka?
So we are going to be talking about freedom of speech, and how that can be turned into hate speech, and kind of like Mikel said, the consequences of taking the quote unquote freedom of speech too far. And there are consequences.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that.
All right. Let's get to the show.
So the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms is our equivalent here in Canada to the American Bill of Rights. So both guarantee the right to freedom of speech and the press, peaceably assemble, travel, due process, privacy, an attorney and speedy trial, all of those things. We have that our Charter of Rights is Bill of Rights. Now, Bill of Rights is a lot older than our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Our Charter of Rights and Freedoms was only just signed, I believe, in I think it was either late 70s or early 80s. It was Pierre Trudeau that stick-handled that. So
the father of Justin Trudeau?
The father of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
When he was Prime Minister. So our Charter of Rights and Freedoms is very new in comparison to the Bill of Rights. Right. So what speech, in terms of freedom of speech, is not protected? So that is, the expression that is shown to belong to a few narrow categories of speech that is not protected by the First Amendment, which would in this case be considered, we're talking about the Bill of Rights. Again, it's probably similar for us here in Canada. Those categories of unprotected speech include obscenity, I hate to say child pornography, but just that's what it's referred to as, defamatory speech, false advertising, true threats, fighting words. These are things that are not protected by the freedom of speech, First Amendment, or I don't know, I think it's number 2 on ours, but I can't remember. It's been a while that I've looked at the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So hate speech. The definition of hate speech, it is a legal term with many meanings. It has no single consistent definition. It is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as public speech that expresses hate or encourages violence towards a person or group based on something such as race, religion, sex, or sexual orientation. Right. So that's what basically hate speech is. So if you're curious, here in Canada, what is the law on hate speech? So this is section 319 in the Criminal Code. Everyone can get access to the Criminal Code. It's basically titled inciting or promoting hatred. So the maximum penalty is imprisonment of not more than 2 years. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's what it is. Go ahead.
Is this a new law, or is this hate speech?
No. I wouldn't think this is a new law.
How long has the hate speech law has been around? Do you know, or is it? I
don't know how long it's been around. I mean, the criminal code is something that gets amended, maybe every year, every couple of years. I would think something like hate speech, it's probably been in laws maybe at least at minimum 20 years, if not a little longer. But there has been times, I'm sure here in Canada, especially in the States, where a hate crime didn't have, like, wasn't illegal, I guess, as you can say, or it wasn't tried in a way that it should have been. So it's always been that time.
So I just read something, well, on Google. So when originally enacted in the 1970s, the definition was limited to two: color, race, religion, origin, but it has been expanded over the years, most recently in 2017 by addition of gender, identity, and expression, hate propaganda as well. So, yeah, so I guess they just added more in 2017. That's why I was like, isn't that new? Isn't
Oh no, it's not new.
Yeah, okay.
Hate speech being it's not a new thing. It's just, yes, expanding is something that probably has happened. And as well, but you have to also remember, I feel like it's also a case by case thing, especially in the States. I'm sure it's a state by state thing as well. Even if something was in law, doesn't necessarily mean that it was tried in the way it should have been, or people are getting sentences that they should have been. So there has, even though it could be in law, we still have a lot of work that needs to be done, like to actually make sure that we're following what needs to be done to people who are expressing hate. Unless someone's killing somebody, then that's a different thing, which has happened. But yeah.
Okay.
So section 319, subsection 2, promoting hatred, makes it an offense to willfully promote hatred against any identifiable group by making statements other than in private conversations. So you can, I guess, spread hatred in private, but in public you can't. Which that's something that is the biggest problem. But there's no laws, there's no way to regulate private conversations. In that case, it'd be a hearsay situation, and that's not admissible. You need proof. So, what is the new bill for hate speech in Canada? So we actually, I think Mikel might have just told us about it. We do have a new bill, which is
I'm seeing it right now.
Okay, so it's the Online Harms Act, introduced formally as the Bill C-63, will result in the most significant expansion of Canada's hate speech laws and create one of North America's most rigid regulatory environments for media and social media companies.
Yeah, there's a lot of hate groups online. Like you can go on Facebook. It's like, type. Also, you go on Twitter. There's a lot of Twitter page who just spread hate and harm towards race, identity, and religion as well. So this is hopefully this goes through. So I don't know what the consequence or punishment is for this type of law. Is there any, is there jail time, or is there community service, or is there just I
don't know if it necessarily adds more sentencing. I think it's just something now that they can include in what is already
into the hate. Okay.
Right. So, but you can't. Yeah. So this is my other thing, things like Facebook. I mean, I don't expect much from Twitter at this point, but you get sent into Zuck jail for just saying shit or fuck or any swear word. And the bigger the group is, the easier it is to get sent to Zuck jail. So it's ridiculous to me that you can't say dick or something
Yeah.
But you can spread hatred and not be okay. Like, I'm so confused by Zuck. I'm so confused by him. Like, why is that okay? But this isn't. And anyway,
I'm guessing he just wants to keep it nice and clean for the investors, and advertisers.
but how is hatred nice and clean? To one group.
I mean, like, the swear words that he's trying to keep it clean.
Yeah, okay, but he also has hate speech.
Has hate group. Yeah, hate.
So that's not clean.
I know, but
it's better to say shit or whatever the hell else than spreading the hatred.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense to me.
That's true. So like, yeah, it just doesn't make it. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense as well. So like, I do agree with you on that. It's I don't know. It's just probably corporate stuff that goes on.
Maybe, but it's so dumb. Anyway.
Yeah. Well.
So we're gonna kind of start talking about some people who have here in Canada have spread some hate and kind of what happened with them. The real kind of go through that. So, Bill Watcott was charged with promoting hate after he distributed flyers in Regina and Saskatoon in 2001 and 2002 that condemned gay sex as immoral. He was found guilty by the Saskatchewan Human Rights Tribunal in 2005, but that decision was later appealed and then overturned in 2010. The tribunal then appealed to the country's top court. So on, I guess the following Wednesday of this, an anonymous decision from the Supreme Court found that most of Saskatchewan's human rights codes was constitutional. The legislation infringes the right to free speech and religion, but the court found it was a reasonable limit. The court struck down the part of the legislation that includes speech that, quote, ridicules, belittles, or otherwise affronts the dignity of a person or class of persons. The court found those words are not rationally connected to the objective of protecting people from hate speech. The court left in place the ban on speech that exposes or tends to expose persons or groups to hatred. Watcott published and distributed 4 anti-gay flyers in Saskatchewan that use words like, quote, filth, propaganda, and sodomy, which, Mikel, you know the definition of sodomy, right?
Sorry, say again?
Sodomy. Do you know what sodomy is?
No, I don't know what
you
sodomy.
Do, but it's the proper term of saying anal sex.
Oh.
That's what sodomy is.
Okay, I have never heard that term.
It's the scientific term of it. Yeah.
Interesting.
So to describe gay relationships and discussions of equality. So the Supreme Court held that the first 2 flyers titled "Keep Homosexuality Out of Saskatoon's Public Schools" and "Sodomites in Our Public Schools" did constitute hate speech and reinstated the Saskatchewan Tribunal's finding, including $7,500 in fines against him. The court upheld an appeal court's decision on the second 2 flyers, photocopies of classified ads with Watcott's handwritten comments on them, stating the ads were for, quote, men seeking boys, which is gross on its own, ruling against the Human Rights Commission.
That's crazy.
And if you see a picture of this guy, he's just yeah. But anyways, it found that it was unreasonable to find the second 2 flyers, quote, contain expression that a reasonable person would find as exposing or likely to expose persons of same-sex orientation to detestation and vilification. So, Watcott's is the latest in a string of court challenges that have helped shape Canada's free speech and hate crime laws, as well as their interpretation by the courts. And there are a little more that we can talk about, like I said. So we have something called telephone hate. So in 1990, I went far. Okay, telephone hate. So John Ross Taylor, he was a self-described fascist. He was jailed in Ontario in the 1980s for telephone hate messages.
All right.
So in 1990, the case reached the Supreme Court of Canada, which ruled against Taylor. The majority ruled that although Canada's Human Rights Act restricts freedom of expression, that restriction was justified. Parliament's objective of preventing the harm caused by hate propaganda is of sufficient importance to warrant overriding and constitutional freedom. And this was said by Chief Justice Brian Dixon, and this was stated in the majority opinion. The minority opinion was written by Beverly McCallan, now Canada's Chief Justice, and she said, quote, "It is arguable whether criminalization of expression calculated to promote racial hatred is necessary." It's necessary, I would think. So we have somebody else now. His name is James Keekstra. I think I say his name. Keekstra. I don't know. Who really cares? But James Keekstra had been teaching anti-Semitism to students in Eckville, Alberta for 14 years when a parent complained to the local school board about his lessons. It was 1982, and Keekstra was also Eckville's mayor at the time. So that's great. The story received international attention, and Keekstra was charged in 1984 under Canada's hate crime laws. He was convicted, but the decision was overturned. Yet again, another overturned conviction. Yeah. You know what that means, right? It's overturned?
Yeah.
Okay. On appeal, after Keekstra's lawyer argued the law was unconstitutional because it violated charter provisions on freedom of expression. So the Keekstra case continued to bounce around various courts until the landmark 1996 ruling by the Supreme Court. I mean, for you to go all over the place and head to Supreme Court, not every case gets to Supreme Court, so that's pretty huge. It said the criminal code section on public incitement of hatred did infringe on the charter, but the infringement was justified and it upheld Keekstra's conviction, his earlier conviction. So Ernest Zundel is another person, and we're going to see a little bit of a trend here again. Holocaust denier Ernst Zundel lived in Canada for 4 decades, making frequent court appearances to argue for the freedom to express his anti-Semitic views in books and pamphlets and on a website. I love that this man is asking for permission to spread hate. Anyway, in 1992, the Supreme Court of Canada overturned his conviction for, quote, spreading false news, saying that the charge violated his charter right to freedom of expression. The German-born Zundel, who wrote the introduction to the book, "Did 6 million Jews really die?" Yes, you fuck, they did. And you were probably there. Come on. Anyway.
This guy was like Alex Jones.
I don't know who that is.
Basically the guy who was spreading hate towards the Sandy Hook. Yeah. He was saying that, he was saying that it didn't happen. It was false. The government was part of the hoax, and
it didn't happen. Don't even get me, because I'm sorry, the Sandy Hook thing makes me very angry. So for anyone to sit there and say that that didn't happen, do you want to tell that to the parents of the kids who lost their children that day? Fucking asshole. But somehow, like, not to say one thing is worse than the other, but to deny, and he's German, I have to point that out. For a German man to act like the Holocaust didn't happen, that the killings of innocent Jewish people, and we're talking millions of people, didn't happen, is disgusting.
Yeah.
It says a lot about him. It really does. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy was part of it to some extent. And because, again, this was, 4 decades prior, he would have been there. He had only lived in Canada for the 4 decades. He would have been in Germany when all this was happening. So it's like, are you kidding me? Again, tell that to the family who lost their family members.
Yeah. Why would you spread that?
There is proof that it
yeah,
happened.
yeah. There's proof right there.
You can go to, not about just reading it.
Yeah.
You can go to Auschwitz and you can see the luggage, the shoes that the people were wearing and were told to stop wearing. Would you like to explain to me where all of that came from? I would love an explanation.
Some people just want to be different, and that's not really different. That's
not different. That's being evil.
Yeah. I was gonna go that direction, but yeah, that's being evil. And
there are literal pictures of people who were a part of the SS group, who were a part of being at concentration camps.
Yeah.
Are you really trying to tell me? Listen, it didn't happen. I can go on forever. It didn't happen. But explain to me how one of the lawyers who worked at my office literally has a swastika on his birth certificate. Because he is German and he was born during that time. Yeah. Would you like to explain that to me?
So does this guy hate Germans? And that's why he was spreading this?
No. He probably doesn't hate Germans. He hates Jewish people. That's who he hates.
Yeah.
It's not about the Germans. He's trying to protect them.
Yeah. I just can't believe there's people out there that just hate Jewish people. Like, I don't understand.
There's people that hate Jewish people, there's people who hate Asian people, there are white people. Sorry, white people, but there are white people who, not just white people, and also other races as well.
Yeah.
But there are people who hate anyone who doesn't look like them. Or who don't think the same way they do, or have the same religion that they do. That's, that's where it all comes from. But it's just, you had, God, I can go forever. But you had a person, one fucking idiot, who wasn't even German, who was Austrian, for fuck's sakes. You had one person who hated Jewish people for his own selfish reasons make other people believe in what he believed in. And look at the destruction this fucking guy did. Would you like to explain to me why this guy ended up shooting himself in the head? Would you like to explain that to me? I would love to know. But the Holocaust didn't happen. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. I can go forever, so I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the German-born Zundel who wrote the introduction, I wrote that already. So he was deported to Germany in 2005 after a federal court judge ruled he was a threat to national security. So he can go back to Germany and pretend like it didn't happen. He can go there. I mean, I'm sure the Germans would love for everyone to forget that this happened to you, but there's a difference between wanting people to just forget and we don't claim him to acting like it just didn't happen. But he can go do it there. He was freed from a German prison in 2010 after serving 5 years for denying the Holocaust. So at least they did something too. So David Q, whatever. That guy. David Q, whatever his name is, a once powerful leader of the Assembly of First Nations, was stripped of his Order of Canada for remarks about Jews in 2002. I'm sorry for this trend, but here we are. This is now the third person. So during a speech at a gathering of First Nations leaders in Saskatoon, Anna Q launched into a barely comprehensible diatribe and made anti-Semitic remarks. He repeated those comments to a reporter, and after the news was published, Ahanaku was charged with promoting hatred. The court proceedings were protracted, but an initial conviction was overturned, and after her second trial, Anahu was then acquitted. So that's kind of angering. The Saskatchewan chief then died in 2010. He was 76. So, neo-Nazi custody case is another thing. Unfortunately, a lot of the hatred seems to be pointed at Jewish people, which is unfortunate. But two children were removed from their Winnipeg home in 2008 after one, a 7-year-old girl, showed up at her elementary school with racist writings and symbols on her skin. The Manitoba Court of Appeal later refused to allow the girl's stepfather, who was accused of teaching her and his biological son neo-Nazi beliefs, to appeal a custody order, giving the state permanent custody of them, or I should say province, permanent custody of them. The court also dismissed a constitutional challenge from the father, who argued the government violated his right to raise the children according to his beliefs. And this is why people like this guy shouldn't have kids. Just don't have kids.
Yeah,
and you can do your hatred on your own.
Like, I hate when
it's a cop out.
I know. I hate when parents spread hate towards their kids and they grow up to be just like their parents.
But that's how it happens. Kids are not born with hate in their hearts.
Yeah.
It's taught to them, and that goes for the adults. The adults don't, grow up to just start hating. Yeah. I mean, I think somewhere along the way it can end up that way for some people.
I also do think it's generations after generations after generations, but it's kind of hard to...
Yes and no, because some generations don't just have people who hate, they also have people who didn't hate.
Yeah. And
spread awareness. So no, I disagree with that. I wouldn't think it's just generations, it's the people. And it doesn't matter what generation, because if that's the case, when does the hate stop?
Do you also think, like, a lot of people just look and read into a lot of things, and then they just
that happens. That does happen. People who are susceptible, as well as people I think who are just looking for some form of acceptance too. That happens, where they read into things and then they get caught up into things, and they join certain groups and stuff. So that does happen.
Yeah, okay, I agree too, 100%.
So on February 21st, 2010, a wooden cross was set aflame on the front lawn of an interracial couple. This is a different thing. Of an interracial couple and their children in Poplar Grove, Nova Scotia. Brothers Nathan and Justin Rayberg were convicted of public incitement of hatred as well as criminal harassment. Crown Attorney Daryl Carmichael praised the conviction as, quote, a really significant decision for our country. He added that there has never been an official court decision which states that cross burning in this context is a hate crime. That is a hate crime. That is a hate crime. This is the person who hates the fact that there is a black man, or I don't know, but black man or a black woman with a white woman or a white man. This is where the hatred is. How dare you take away our white people, you black person, and it is like, mind your business. It's not hard to just mind your business and stay out of others. It's not difficult. But anyway, Justin Rayberg apologized at his sentencing hearing for what he described as, quote, a horrible mistake. I feel more like you just got caught. So, anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
In Canada, it's also a crime to incite hatred, as we've kind of established. So under Section 318, which is around the same one that I mentioned earlier, of the Criminal Code, it is a criminal act to, quote, advocate or promote genocide, to call for support, encourage, or argue for the killing of members of a group based on color, race, religion, ethnic origin, or sexual orientation, as we've mentioned. So we can go a little deeper on Section 319. So I've mentioned already, this deals with publicly stirring up or inciting hatred against an identifiable group based on color, race, religion, ethnic origin, or sexual orientation. It is illegal to communicate hatred in a public place by telephone, broadcast, or through other audio or visual means but the same section protects people from being charged with a hate crime if their statements are truthful or the expression of religion or of religious opinion. There's also the mischief section, which is 430 of the Criminal Code, covers hate-motivated mischief and religious property. It provides for harsher sentences than mischief involving other property. So prior to 2003, Canada's Criminal Code protected people on the basis of race, religion, ethnic origin, color, gender, and disability. On April 29th of 2004, the federal government passed Bill C-250 to amend the Criminal Code, adding penalties for inciting hatred against people on the basis of sexual orientation. The section of the code on sentencing, which is 718.2, encourages judges to consider whether the crime was motivated by hate of the victim's race, national or ethnic origin, language, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, or any other similar factor. Under Section 13 of the Canadian Human Rights Act, it is a, quote, discriminatory practice to send hate messages via telecommunications equipment, including the internet. So, basically, in a nutshell, and I kind of said this already a little earlier, you might have your opinions or your views, which I don't agree with. Most people probably don't agree with, but you're entitled to your opinion and your views and whatever.
Yes.
Don't spread the hatred.
Yeah.
Keep it to your fucking self. Because at the end of the day, people, queer people, gay people, whatever, queer people, Jewish people, Black people, Asian people, whatever it is that you hate, are not doing a shit to you. We don't care enough about you. You're not our thought process. We don't care about you. You're not the most important thing in the room. So, shut up, sit in a fucking corner, and keep to yourself. Don't spread hate to your kids either.
Right.
Just
100%.
Our world could be a lot better if you would just shut up. Anyway.
Yeah. Even though, like, sometimes people like to challenge your opinions, even though it's your opinion, and it may seem like it's kind of wrong, but
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all I have.
That's all you have. All right. Well, that's it for me.
That's it.
Yeah.
So this ends episode 35 of the Next Tape Podcast. The Next Tape Podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called solo.to/Next Tape Podcast. Where else are we at, Tanyka?
We're on Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast, and Twitter and TikTok at Next Take Pod.
Okay, you can email us at MikelTanyka@gmail.com. That is MikelTanyka@gmail.com. So we just talked about freedom of speech on this episode. Tanyka already said her thing.
I said it all.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. Also, educate yourself on freedom of speech. Don't take it too far towards either your friends, your family, or your or even your dogs or your pet.
Those are private conversations. You won't get in trouble for that.
Yeah. So yeah, don't take it too far. Um, or you will reap the consequences of that that situation. Okay.
All right.
All right. So that's it. Do we have any news for what's coming next for the next tape podcast, or are we good, Tanyka?
I think we're good. Um, yeah, I think we're good. I mean, I just realized there was things I wanted to talk about, but you know what? It's okay. We can do it on another episode. It's
All
not going
right.
anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, we're not going anywhere, guys. So yeah. So I'm Mikel, and
And that's Nika.
we are out until next week. Peace, guys.
Bye.